Okay, so I just kind of wanted to go over our stats as we finish the year. I think the stats kind of show what I've been watching, so I kind of wanted to go over that and maybe figure out what the best plan is for the Chargers going forward. So the Chargers, overall, they were the fifth highest team in grade at 89.9. Pass was 92.8, third. Defensive grade was third at 78.5. Coverage grade was second at 87.9. Run defense grade was seventh at 73.2. Pass rush grade was 71.1. It was 12th. Pass block was 12th at 71.8. Tackling grade was 15th at 49.9. Offense was 15th at 77.5. Special teams was 17th at 79.2. Receiving was 73.6, 18th. Run block grade was 21st at 61.6. And run grade was 29th at 69.6. So if you look at all the games we've lost, we were outrushed by the Texans 168-50. Chargers couldn't punch the ball in the end zone. They went 0 for 2 in the red zone. Steelers outrushed the Chargers 114-61. I remember watching that game and saying we kind of went away from the rushing the ball in the second half. And so I think that had a lot to do with how we lost that game. Chiefs outrushed us in the first game 55-101. I was also in that game. There was a long bomb to Xavier Worthy. It's possible a really good coverage safety could solidify that back end a little bit better, and that way we can let the pass rush do their thing. But I think the way the Chargers play, they didn't focus too much on pass rush, so they can focus on stopping the run. And as a result of that, we didn't have a high pressure ratio, but when we did blitz, we had a high sack ratio. And so I think we finished mid-pack in rush yards, but when it came to rushing touchdowns, we were first. So I mean, that's probably a true definition of a bend don't break team and the way the Chargers played. The Bucks also outrushed the Chargers 223-32. Of the games we lost, seems like a lot of times big plays were made on QB scrambles. Versus Arizona, it was a long run from Kyle Murray. Versus Houston, it was a fumble scramble, or if you will, a framble. A lot of times the games we lost, Roman abandoned the run game, left it up to Herbert to win the game for them, but we've devoted ourselves to play action so much that we can't construct a viable spread offense pass scheme. So once we abandoned the run game, we're kind of done. We just don't have the passing firepower to make the passing game prolific. So, you know, if Roman wants to be a run game or play action pass type team, then they certainly must improve run block and run, most certainly. And so for that reason, I think, you know, wide receiver is not a priority because we had a high grade in pass. Our receiving grade wasn't good, but it's not horrible. You know, it was 18th in the league at 73.6. Having said that, you know, they couldn't win with our defense because they would hold the teams at 17 points, you know, and our offense could only muster 10 points, as was the case versus the Chiefs, as was the case versus Steelers, Texans. Defensively, our defense wasn't good enough to be better than their defense, and our offense wasn't good enough to be better than their offense. And maybe some of that has to do with the cap space that we had coming into the league, and we kind of just, you know, plugged and play where we could through free agency. But you know, that was one thing what I noticed was that we got rid of, you know, 2 wide receivers, kept the edge rushers, and as a result of that, we couldn't put up as many points as we wanted to. Which leads me to tight ends. You know, for an offensive coordinator that relies heavily on tight ends, we really didn't have that number one tight end option. Will Dissly was the 25th highest grade tight end per PFF. He did really well as pass catching tight end, but a lot of that, if you go back and think about it, I mean, a lot of his yards came off screens. And so, I mean, is he really a true pass catching tight end? I don't think so. He had a touchdown drop that hit him in the hands versus, I believe, the Titans, and he also had 2 drops versus the Texans. So he's kind of good in a lot of different areas, but he's not quite that prolific pass catching tight end that I'm sure Herbert would do really well with, and as well as Roman calling plays with the use of tight ends that he likes to use. And if you look at Ladd McConkey, he was the 14th best overall score from ESPN receiver score. So if you wanna think like, okay, the top 32 wide receivers are probably wide receiver 1, Ladd McConkey is probably that wide receiver 1. He's not an X receiver, he's a slot receiver, and he did have some deep ball catches as well, so he provided a little bit of that deep ball there for you, but he's not a true X receiver. McConkey was 17th in open score, 68th on catch, and he's 35th in yards after catch. In man coverage, that is 15th in man and 33rd in zone. Tucker Fisk is 17th best run blocking tight end, so that's good. You know, that's good that Tucker Fisk provided a lot of good blocking, considering that he was just, you know, off the street. So at least you have that. You know, we didn't really have a run blocking tight end before. Tucker Fisk is 17th best according to PFF in run blocking. QJ is 191 in man and 26th in zone. QJ is 86 overall. So if you had 32, 3 times that is 96. So QJ kind of falls in that wide receiver 3 range if you're using PFF score. Palmer is 87th. So you can consider him another wide receiver 3. So essentially, if you're looking at it objectively, just using PFF scores and ESPN receiver scores, you can consider Ladd McConkey a wide receiver 1, QJ and Palmer wide receiver 3s. So we have 1 wide receiver 1 and 2 wide receiver 3s. So we could certainly use maybe a wide receiver 2, but you know, I don't know how most good teams are constructed, if they have 1 1 and 2 3s or 3 2s across the board, or, you know, you look at the Bengals, they have have a bunch of ones and they can't win a game. So I'm not sure that's the answer, but roster construction could be very subjective, and I still believe linemen are the tip of the spear. So I was going through the average ages of each position the Chargers have. Outside linebacker, the average age is 27. So you got Thule, who's super young, but then you got Bosa, Mack, Bud Dupree. There's always a Boigby, who's kind of that hybrid D-tackle edge. So, if they do go with like Grant on the draft, they could kick out at Boigby, maybe replace some of that value you're going to lose in the event that they're not able to re-sign Bosa or Mack. The tight end and wide receiver room is 25. So Palmer's still pretty young. Todd McConkey is obviously young. QJ's young. So that room is pretty young. The tight ends are not. I don't think they're that young. So you could probably definitely get younger there. Safety and strong safety, age is older. So they could definitely probably get younger in that area. I think Alohi Gilman's still pretty young. That's it. You got Tony Jefferson, Derwin. Not sure who else qualifies as safety. In terms of the NFL draft, I still think the Chargers should consider trading down. They should have traded down in Staley's last year when they drafted QJ. They could have gotten a tight end. There was a lot of great tight ends that came out of that draft. Laporta, Mayer. This draft, they probably could have done really well having they traded down. Brian Thomas Jr. ended up being probably one of the better wide receivers in the league. He went pretty late. You had Zach Frazier at center. They probably could have done well had they traded down. But if you're using the idea that you're never a player away from winning, well, that should hold true in the draft as well. You're never a fifth pick away from winning. You're not. It's what the complete draft can contribute that you're probably going to do well and win games. Having said that, you do need top quality talent as well. So I think Chargers should continue turning the O-line and D-line. Our defense was number one in the league due to the dominant front we had, which allowed our secondary to stay in too high formation. And if you look at the games we lost, we couldn't run the ball as effectively as we wanted to, and pressure was able to get to Herbert. This was the case versus the Steelers as well as the Texans and probably even the Chiefs. Chargers should draft a tackle to move to guard because Chiefs need one and Patriots need two. So in drafting a tackle, you can not only shore up our O-line even more, but you can prevent the Chiefs from getting a good tackle that they need so desperately. And then if you have a good edge rusher, probably going to help. Chargers should consider moving Slater to guard or Alt to center and draft another tackle or two. So Alt's really smart. He could probably be a good piece to making sure that the O-line is blocking properly. But if they feel confident that Herbert can do it all by himself, then I guess you don't need to. And Slater, being as strong as he is and as good as a run blocker as he is, I'm sure he could probably be really dominant as a guard. He's probably our best lineman in terms of driving people off their mark and displacing them. So I don't think it's a horrible idea. I think Greg Roman needs to go through his play call sheet and maybe condense it or make it more readable. Whenever they show the video of him looking at plays, he looks like he's flipping his play call sheet around, flipping it to the back, he's flipping it open. Looks like he's doing something like a pigami. What's it called? Origami. It's like he's making an origami. And again, for an offensive quarter that loves tight ends, he really doesn't have one that can do both blocking and pass catching at a high level. In terms of pass rush, Perryman was 14th best among all linebackers and edge rushers. In terms of PFF grade, Mack was 27th, Bosa was 136th, Thule was 146th, Junior Colson was 150th. If you look at chip percentage by PFF when they posted it October 29th or something like that, Bosa was chipped at 16%, sixth most. Mack was 14.9%, eighth most. Dupree 10.6%, Thule 8%, which is probably among top 50. So that certainly helps out the secondary when you have a dominant D-line like that, where where the offense has to get chip help on them, dedicate maybe wide receiver resources to that. So that's certainly going to slow down their prolific pass and help out the secondary even more. So if Bosa leaves or Mack leaves, then you're gonna take away from that value that you get from that chip. This most certainly will help the secondary as chip take away from pass options. Does having a dominant defensive line help in winning games? Well, we prevented touchdowns, but we lost by field goals, as was the case the Chiefs, Steelers. So although we did a really good job being the number one defense in terms of scoring points, it really didn't result in winning games because our offense wasn't able to generate points more than we prevented it. So all that tells me is that you just need better blocking, better offensive linemen, because when you get in the red zone, rushing becomes critical. If you can't run the ball, you're not going to score. And again, if we have an offensive coordinator that loves play action, then a run game is certainly going to help our pass. In terms of coverage, if you're looking at touchdowns allowed, Fulton was the most, Jasir, Tarhib and Cam Hart allowed 3+. In terms of passer rating, Jasir, Junior Colson, Tony Jefferson, AJ Finley, Mack, Troy Dye, and Marcus May all allowed over 100 passer rating. If you're looking at total EPA, in terms of defense EPA, we were above average, better than Lions, Chiefs, Colts. Bills, Bucks, Texans were slightly better. In drop back EPA, we were among the best. Eagles, Packers, Vikings, and Broncos were all better in drop back EPA. So previously I was talking about rush EPA, so we were above average, better than Lions, Chiefs, Colts, Bills, Bucks. I'm sorry. In terms of rush defense EPA, we were above average, better than Lions, Chiefs, and Colts. Bills, Bucks, Texans were slightly better. Now, if you're talking about contracts, I wonder if they can pay Alt now. Incorporate the money that he's getting as a rookie and then just go ahead and pay him a second contract, because you know he's going to be there for a second contract. I'd do that with McConkey now too, but I don't know. He's already been hurt a lot, even as a rookie. So I would also try to get Herbert to take a pay cut. I would pay him the same as Mahomes or less. Anything puts you more at a disadvantage. You don't really need that much money to be happy. You know what will make you happy? Being a winner. Being a winner will make you happy. Who needs $262 million? All you're going to do is fish. The most expensive fishing rod is $350. You know what you can't buy? You can't buy Lombardi trophies. That's priceless. Do you know that LeBron has earned more from endorsements than he has from his NBA salary? He's earned $1 billion from his endorsements. That's a 1 with 9 zeros. LeBron has only earned $479 million from the NBA. Tom Brady earned $530 million, from which $200 million came from endorsements. So you could probably do yourself a favor if you want to be a winner, and I know he does. Take a pay cut. If you win a Lombardi, you'll probably rake in a lot of dough just by the endorsements you're going to get from having your face on commercials. I mean, I already see his face on like SoFi commercials and whatnot. So it's not a slight to you. It just puts you in the best advantageous situation so that you're successful. Because say you take a pay cut, then you can use that money, get a wide receiver, get better blocking, better running back, whatever, maybe a better defense. So that can give you more opportunities to put the ball in the end zone. All that value is just going to go right back to you. So I would pitch it to him like that. Hey man, you want to be a winner? Maybe take a pay cut. I mean, you're getting paid more than any player anyways. So even with a pay cut, so it'd only be advantageous to him so that he can be successful.